The common consensus is our marketing is too aggressive. Okay, so he said, I'm trying to understand, he wants to understand sort of my thinking process around like being aggressive. Okay, so first, the thing you have to understand is the label aggressive is an opinion. Okay, so if I say to you, when a lead comes in, you better make at least 5 follow-up phone calls plus 10 emails. And you got to do it like as soon as the lead comes in, later that day, if you get voicemail, you're emailing, you're calling, your email, you're calling. Some people will look at that and say, that's too aggressive. Okay. Now, other people would look at it and might say that's not aggressive enough. So the first thing you have to understand is this is an opinion. And so because it's an opinion, you have to look at the person who's saying it. Now you say other community. So again, it could be, a competitor's community. I don't know who is saying this. All right. But I think whose opinion is giving it matters as well, because let's say, for example, if, I paid Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. I was going to be down in Miami anyway. So I paid Jordan for a half day of consulting, and I went to his house and I spent a half day with Jordan Belfort. Now, whether you like him or not, and yes, he's made a lot of bad decisions, yes, I understand that. The dude still knew that the superpower he had was being able to run and build a sales department that was second to none. That was really what Jordan was great at. Okay. Yes, he cheated. But you cannot overlook that. So the guy knows selling. He's telling me my process is not aggressive enough. Now, if Jordan is telling me that, and he's telling me you need to be more aggressive or you need to close, whatever it is, I'm going to take that advice over somebody. Let's say I have a small business owner who's never broken the $1 million mark or only maybe got to a couple $1 million in revenue. And they're coming to me going, Robin, your process is too aggressive. Well, I want to get TMT, we're gunning for 50 million was my next goal. And now my next goal is 100 million. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it, but that's an aggressive goal. I am not going to achieve an aggressive goal with timid activity. Okay. You're never going to, and this is what you gotta, like somebody who's running a lifestyle business, who's never gotten over a couple $1 million, who's saying this is too aggressive. Of course for them it is, and because they don't have that heat. They don't have that desire, right? Now, the only time it would be quote unquote too aggressive is if you are getting a lot of negative feedback from people that you're like, in other words, like you're pushing people too far and it's pushing them to not buy, right? And I will tell you that in our sales process, there are people who complain that we are too aggressive. It's not the majority, it's a small minority, but like I was saying, that one campaign has generated over $10 million in ARR. I promise you, if my sales reps weren't aggressive in asking for the order, which some people think that is too aggressive, we would not be doing 10 million. I don't know what we would be doing, but we would not be doing 10 million in ARR, right? So I think you have to take this in context. Now, another thing I want to point out to you is whenever you're looking at the way people do things in business, okay? I'm sure Rob, you've heard of the 80-20 rule, right? The Pareto principle, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Pareto principle. What is it? It's like 20% of the companies get 80% of the results. It's like a universe. It's a natural law. It's like applies to the mass of stars, to the size of cities, to even if we went into your house, 20% of your floors and carpets get 80% of the wear. It's just the way it is, right? It's like a natural law, right? So when you're looking at taking advice, you've got to be very, very careful to not do what the 80% do if you want to be in the top 20%, right? And if you really want to get into the top 1%, you cannot make decisions, think, act, behave like the 99%. So for example, there's some data out there where only about 0.4% of all businesses in America, there's about 33 million businesses in America, only about 0.4% of them get to 10 million in revenue. Okay. Now in the MSP space, it's a little different. So like we look at the MSP space, like for example, only like if you look at all businesses in America, okay, the vast majority are like nearly 80% are solopreneurs, like myself. I mean, like the word solopreneur, they're like driving Uber or they're knitting shamrock, hats on Etsy and selling whatever the hell they're doing, right? And that's not like, so, but they're a business, right? So you have to count. So there's like 33 million of those, right? So of all businesses, only 4% of all businesses get to the $1 million mark. Now, some of them, not that hard to beat because they're driving Uber on the weekend. They're not really trying that hard, right? Now, if you look at the MSP industry from our data, and I've been trying to get correct data, it's just hard because this industry doesn't share. They don't, like, there's a lot of BS with numbers and they don't share. But for us, 79% of MSPs never get to the $1 million mark. So 80%. So when you are looking at a forum, you got to ask yourself, are these the people who are in the 20%? Are these people in the top 5%? Or are these the bottom 80% that have not grown a business? They're under $1 million in revenue, or they're only a couple $1 million in revenue, who are saying this to you? Because if they are in the bottom 80%, unless that's where you want to be, you do not want to take their opinion or their advice, because they're revealing to you their philosophy and they're revealing to you their belief system, and that is what's keeping them where they are. All right. So this idea of being aggressive, again, I don't know of anybody who's ever gotten into the top 1% of their industry or the top 1% of wealth or income earners who got there through a very timid, shy approach. Okay, so you just got to make a decision, and you got to be very careful who you listen to. Because again, like if you look at online media, like 80% of the people, you just got to look around and say, yeah, 80% of the people walking around here really, and if you really want to get down, because if you want to be in the top 5%, right, you got to look around and go, 95% of these people around here are flat out wrong about their approach, about their philosophy, about their opinion, especially when it comes to business. Okay, because again, most of them are broke, they're not growing, they're not profitable, they're existing, but they're not like setting any records. So again, you have to decide what percentage you want to be in. Do you want to be in the 1%? Do you want to be in the 10%? Do you want to be even in the top 20%? Or do you want to stay at the bottom 80? And it's really up to you.